The Lost Soul Horror. Hello friends, welcome to the Horror Ghost Stories. The story begins. The Lost Soul is a terrifying horror story set in a small, isolated town where an unsettling presence begins to haunt its residents. People start experiencing strange occurrences, whispers in the dark, cold spots in their homes, and an overpowering feeling of being watched. The townsfolk are on edge, but no one can explain what's happening. The story centers around a protagonist who is either new to the town or has a connection to its forgotten past. As the occurrences intensify, the protagonist is drawn into the mystery. Through eerie dreams and increasingly disturbing encounters, they realize that the source of the disturbances is a lost soul, an entity that cannot find peace because of something left unresolved. As the protagonist investigates further, they discover that the soul is not simply a wandering spirit. It was once a person tied to the town, someone who met a tragic end many years ago. The soul is searching for something, but the nature of its torment remains unclear. Some in the town suspect that it's the spirit of a victim seeking revenge, while others believe it's simply lost in its search for redemption. As the protagonist digs deeper, they begin to uncover secrets about their own connection to the ghost. In a terrifying twist, they realize that they, too, are linked to the lost soul, possibly a past victim or someone whose fate is bound with the ghost's tragedy. Their growing fear is heightened by strange visions and supernatural events, as the lost soul's influence grows stronger and more malicious. In the climax, the protagonist is forced to confront their own hidden past, one that connects them to the tragic event that caused the soul's unrest. They must find a way to help the spirit move on, but the closer they get to the truth, the more they realize how deeply they are entwined with the soul's pain and sorrow. The line between the living and the dead blurs as the protagonist struggles to escape the ghost's grasp, racing against time to solve the mystery before they, too, become trapped in the same endless search for peace. The story ends on a haunting note, with the lost soul either finding closure or continuing its eternal search, leaving a lingering sense of unease and a reminder of how past wrongs can haunt not just the dead, but the living as well. As the protagonist delves further into the mystery, they discover a hidden history of the town. The lost soul, once a resident, was the victim of an unspeakable tragedy. Many years ago, a crime occurred, whether it was murder, betrayal, or a tragic accident that left the spirit tethered to the town. The ghost's torment is not just a desire for revenge or closure, but a search for the truth that was buried long ago. The townspeople, perhaps out of guilt or fear, have kept the true nature of the soul's death a secret, but the ghost knows it was wronged. Strange occurrences become more frequent and violent as the ghost's power grows. Objects move on their own, voices echo in empty rooms, and people are driven to madness by vivid hallucinations. The protagonist's own life begins to unravel as they are pulled deeper into the spirit's web, experiencing memories that aren't their own and hearing the voice of the ghost calling out for help. These experiences begin to blur the lines between reality and the supernatural, forcing the protagonist to question their sanity. With each passing day, the town becomes more desolate. People who have encountered the lost soul are found in terrifying states of delirium or worse, dead under mysterious circumstances. The fear among the residents intensifies, but no one dares speak of what they know, either too afraid of the consequences or unsure of how to stop the ghost's wrath. The protagonist feels the weight of responsibility to stop the spirit, but they realize they may be the only one who can help. In their final quest for answers, the protagonist unearths a long-forgotten diary or an old town record that reveals the full extent of the tragedy. The spirit was someone they once knew, or even a part of their own family. The horror grows when they realize that the lost soul is a reflection of their own hidden guilt, a reminder of something they have tried to bury. As the connection between the protagonist and the ghost deepens, the protagonist is forced to face their own dark secrets. The climax of the story reaches a terrifying crescendo as the protagonist confronts the lost soul in a climactic, emotional showdown. The ghost, twisted and consumed by its need for resolution, tries to drag the protagonist into its endless torment. The protagonist must find a way to break the cycle, either by solving the mystery or by facing their own past mistakes, to give the lost soul the peace it desperately seeks. In the final moments, they either succeed, freeing the soul from its endless search, or fail, becoming yet another lost soul themselves. The ending leaves a lingering sense of unease, as the ghost may or may not find peace. It serves as a reminder that unresolved guilt, hidden truths, and past actions have a way of coming back to haunt us. The protagonist, forever changed by the encounter, may never truly escape the shadow of the lost soul, suggesting that some things are never meant to be forgotten. The story ends in ambiguity, leaving the audience to ponder whether the soul is truly at rest or if the haunting will continue for someone else. As the protagonist continues to investigate the mysterious haunting, they begin to notice that the events surrounding the lost soul are not isolated, but connected to a larger, darker force that has influenced the town for generations. The ghost's presence grows more insistent, with chilling encounters that seem to be deliberately guiding the protagonist toward certain places, leading them to uncover unsettling truths about the town's past. The town, it seems, is built upon a long history of hidden sins. A once thriving community is now crumbling, plagued by secrets that no one dares acknowledge. The lost soul's torment is linked not only to its own tragic death but also to the actions of previous generations of townspeople who have participated in covering up the truth, whether out of fear or selfishness. The town itself is cursed, and the soul is merely the catalyst for the larger horror that has been festering beneath the surface. The more the protagonist uncovers, the more they realize that they are being watched not just by the lost soul, but by the living as well. The townspeople seem to know more than they are letting on, and some even appear to have formed a kind of silent alliance with the spirit, perhaps out of a shared guilt or fear of retribution. As the protagonist digs deeper, they become increasingly isolated, unable to trust anyone. People who they thought were friends turn out to be complicit in the town's dark history, and the haunting grows even more intense, as if the very land itself is conspiring against them. The supernatural occurrences escalate. The protagonist experiences vivid, nightmarish visions where they find themselves reliving the tragic event from the past, seeing through the eyes of the lost soul itself. They feel the ghost's anguish and confusion, its desperate attempts to understand its death and find peace. In these dreams, the protagonist learns that the soul was not merely a victim but a part of a greater ritual, a sacrifice made to ensure the town's prosperity. The townspeople's complicity in this ritual becomes a chilling revelation, one that binds them to the lost soul's curse. The protagonist's own life begins to mirror that of the lost soul. They begin to lose their sense of time and place, seeing glimpses of the past and future intertwining. The lines between the living and the dead blur, and the protagonist feels themselves being drawn into the same dark fate as the soul they are trying to help. They experience a deep, overwhelming sense of guilt, as if they are being punished for sins they did not commit but are somehow responsible for nonetheless. The ghost's wrath grows, and every step the protagonist takes seems to lead them closer to the same horrific end. In the final confrontation, the protagonist learns that the key to breaking the curse lies not in solving the mystery of the ghost's death but in confronting the hidden sins of the town. The lost soul's torment is not merely a personal tragedy but a reflection of the collective guilt and the bloodshed that has haunted the town for centuries. To stop the haunting, the protagonist must force the townspeople to acknowledge the truth, even at the cost of their own safety. But many of the townspeople, knowing that their past actions have created this curse, are unwilling to face the consequences. As the story reaches its peak, the protagonist, filled with a sense of dread, faces the soul in a final, desperate attempt to bring peace. The ghost, a twisted version of its former self, is no longer just a spirit but an embodiment of the town's darkness. It tries to pull the protagonist into its realm, where time and reality are distorted, and the protagonist must confront their own fears and regrets. In the end, the protagonist's decision determines whether the soul is finally released or whether the curse is passed on to the next generation. The story concludes with a chilling ambiguity: did the protagonists succeed in ending the haunting, or did they become just another part of the town's never-ending cycle of horror? The lost soul's fate is left uncertain, and the protagonist's future is equally unclear. The final image leaves a lingering sense of unease, as the town remains, perhaps, forever cursed. The past is never truly gone, and some souls are destined to remain lost, wandering forever in search of something they can never find. The protagonist, forever changed by the events, may never escape the horror they have uncovered, and the town continues to stand as a reminder that sometimes the darkest secrets are buried so deep that no one can ever escape their grasp. As the protagonist's journey into the town's dark history continues, the supernatural occurrences become more intimate and terrifying. The spirit begins to manifest in more personal ways, haunting the protagonist's dreams, whispering their name, and even appearing in reflections or shadows, always just out of reach but undeniably present. The ghost seems to be growing stronger, its torment seeping into the protagonist's reality, blurring the lines between what is real and what is part of the haunting. It becomes evident that the lost soul's wrath is not limited to simple hauntings, it is actively manipulating the world around the protagonist, creating a reality that feels increasingly hostile and alien. As the protagonist delves deeper into the mystery, they uncover a key figure from the town's past, someone who may have had direct involvement in the death of the lost soul. This person, now elderly and reclusive, reveals a chilling truth: the soul was sacrificed as part of a ritual meant to secure the town's survival. The town's prosperity, its safety, its very existence, had all been secured through blood that was spilled to appease a powerful, otherworldly force. This force, however, is not merely the ghost of a single individual, but something far darker, a lingering presence that continues to haunt the town as a whole. The protagonist is struck by the revelation that the town's very foundations are built upon lies, deception, and sacrifice. The lost soul is not an isolated victim, it is one of many sacrifices over the years, each one left unresolved, each one continuing to haunt the town in different ways. The protagonist begins to realize that the entire town is cursed, its inhabitants forever bound to the ghostly presence that haunts them. The ghost's search for peace is not a singular event, it is part of an ongoing cycle of torment that spans generations, with each new death feeding the curse further. At this point, the protagonist becomes obsessed with finding a way to break the cycle. They scour every record, every diary, every letter they can find, hoping for some clue that will allow them to undo the ritual and free the lost souls trapped in the town. They begin to uncover unsettling details about the families who have lived in the town for generations, realizing that many of them have blood ties to the original conspirators of the sacrifice. The more they uncover, the more it seems that the ghosts of the past are watching them, guiding them towards something that will either end the curse or trap them in it forever. As the protagonist's investigation reaches its boiling point, they begin to see signs that the lost soul is growing desperate. The hauntings become more violent, more erratic, as if the ghost is struggling to hold onto the last remnants of its humanity. The protagonist is increasingly haunted by visions of the soul's death, a brutal, violent end where the spirit is torn from the mortal realm before it can ever understand why it was chosen. The ghost's actions grow more chaotic, its anguish manifesting as physical harm. Objects are thrown across rooms, and the protagonist is physically attacked in the night, bruises and scratches appearing mysteriously on their body. At the climax of the story, the protagonist is forced to confront the very essence of the curse. They realize that the only way to end the haunting is to confront the original act of sacrifice, the blood spilled to appease the unknown force. To do so, they must unravel the town's darkest secret, that the rituals were not only designed to ensure the town's survival, but also to bind the residents to the spirit, creating a never-ending cycle of sacrifice. The protagonist must make an impossible choice: either perform a final ritual to give the spirit peace or take on the responsibility of becoming the new vessel for the lost souls, ensuring that the curse will continue, but this time under their control. The final confrontation is harrowing, as the protagonist stands at the crossroads of life and death. In an emotional and intense scene, the protagonist confronts the ghost in its most powerful form, no longer just a restless spirit, but a manifestation of the town's entire history, a being of pure anguish and fury. The protagonist must face their own guilt and fears, as they realize that they are as much a part of this curse as the town itself. Whether the protagonist chooses to sacrifice themselves, to finally put an end to the torment, or to take the ghost's place, the decision is ultimately left up to them, and the consequences of that choice are unknown. In the aftermath, the town remains, but its fate is left uncertain. The ghost may have found peace, or it may have moved on to haunt another soul. The protagonist, however, is irrevocably changed. Whether they escape the curse or become a new part of its endless cycle is unclear. The story closes with an eerie, lingering question: was the haunting truly ended, or is the lost soul still out there, waiting for the next person to uncover the dark history of the town? The final image leaves the audience with a chilling sense of unresolved terror. The town remains cursed, its dark secrets buried deep beneath the surface. The lost soul's torment may have ended, but the fear that it could return, perhaps in a new form, or through a new victim, lingers in the air, reminding everyone that some horrors are never truly gone. The protagonist, having faced the horror of their past and the curse of the town, may now live in constant fear of the lost souls, knowing that one day, they could be the next to answer the call.